Hi Meredith, Mrs. Price here. I am going to walk you through the first few rounds of the ghost pattern. I know this is going to be upside down, but it's that one. So I'll start it from the very beginning. And I know I said I was going to do one video per round, but I'm going to get you up to where we increase to 12 and then go on to round 3. Since you already actually knew how to do that, so let's start it there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make my magic loop. You know, I think I'm going to cut my yarn though, because this one is looking a little bit crazy, kind of like yours was all crazy looking. There we go. Sorry, this is going to be one of those really long lessons. Okay, let me go ahead and do my magic loop. Or magic ring, I guess it's called a magic ring. Okay, so I've done my chain 1, and then I'm going to go into the ring and I'm going to put on 6 stitches. So that is my first stitch. So here, let me hold this down there. This little guy right here, that little bar, that is your chain 1, and then grab something to point to this with. This right here, that's your first stitch. So that's what you go under when you use your hook to make another stitch. So I'm just using this all right here to point to it. So that's stitch number 1. So we need 6 of those. So the directions for the ghosts start with round 1, 6 single crochet, so SC single crochet, in magic ring, and you'll end up with 6 stitches. So there's 1 single crochet, and I'm gonna go in, there's 2, and when I pull this through, I like to hold my work with my middle finger and my thumb, and that can stabilize the work, and then I can wiggle that right through. So there's 2 stitches. So we have 1 and 2. They're gonna look like a little V. So let me do my third one. Yarn over, whoops, yarn over. I'm gonna pull that through. Try not to split my stitches. Now I have 3. So I have 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna pull my ring closed a little bit. I'm gonna give myself some slack here. Okay, let me get repositioned. The great thing about crochet is that you can stop and then you can easily reposition your yarn or your fingers, and it's not going to pull out like in knitting. If I had to stop while I was knitting, I'd have to make sure that the stitches weren't too close to the edge of the needles because they can fall off and unravel. Crochet is very hard to unravel unless you're yanking on it. Okay, so I had 3, I'm on 4, 4. I'm gonna pull that close a little bit. So that's going through those 2 loops, 5, and then 1 more will make 6. Okay, so on this right here, count those up. I have, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. That's my first one, and there's the little bar that was created by the chain 1. So that is round 1. So here, I'll try to turn this around so we can look at that together. Really need a document camera. Okay, so we just did round 1. So that was 6 single crochet and the magic ring for 6 stitches. So it doesn't say anything about closing it up yet, because when you close it up, that's actually the first stitch in round 2. So what I like to do is get a highlighter or a pencil or really anything and just put some kind of mark to say, yeah, I already did that one. So I'll put a mark after I'm all the way done so I don't get confused. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to round 2 is increase, so INC is increase in each stitch around. So that means we're going to join it. It doesn't specifically say that, but that's what we're going to do. And around means you're going to go around the circle, and you'll end up with 12 stitches. So you're going into each of the 6 stitches that you just made, and you're going to put 2 single crochets in each of those. So that's what we did in class, but I know it's hard to see that, especially when I had to sit so far away from you. Okay, so here are my 6 stitches. I have some wool roving on there. So I'm going to close up the hole just a little bit. I'm not going to pull it all the way because it will be easier for me to put my hook into the first stitch. Let me get some slack here. Okay, so that's my tail. That's my tail right there. Move that over. So that's how I like to do my yarn. So I'll loop around my pinky, and then I'll go over, and then I can kind of control the yarn with my left pointer. Okay, so now I'm going to join this round. I don't want to go into this little guy right here because that was the bump from my chain 1. So I don't want the chain 1 bump. I want the stitch that looks like a V. So right here, there's my V. Sometimes the first stitch ends up looking kind of funny, and you really gotta like bore your crochet hook through that first one. So now, even though I have my 2 legs of that first stitch on my hook, it kind of looks like 3. That's really counting as 1. So I have 2 loops on there. I'm going to go ahead and yarn over. I'm going to pull that through that stitch and through the second one, and now my magic ring is joined. So I could make that hole smaller by pulling it on the tail. And what I've made, this right here, I'm gonna stick the awl right through here. This right here is my first stitch in round 2. So I need to do 12 stitches total. So I've already done 1, so I have 11 more to go. You're going to put 2 single crochets in each of these little V's. So I've already done 1. So since that's my first stitch, I want to signify where the first stitch started so I know when to stop. If you don't mark off your stitches, right now it's not too confusing because there's not too much going on, but when this starts to get really big, it would be really hard unless you can see all those rounds in your head photographically, which I know I can't. So I most definitely need to use these little stitch markers. Okay, here's where it might be a little confusing too. So this right here is my first stitch. I am going to go in again. If I pull this out, you can kind of see a little hole there, and I can actually stick my awl through that hole. So that's where you want to go back in with your crochet hook to go in the same stitch. So you're increasing by 1 stitch in every stitch. So you're going to put 2 stitches in each stitch from the last round. So there was 1. So that was my stitch 1 of round 2. And here is stitch 3. So I'm going to stick that in the same stitch, same little hole there. I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to pull that through both loops, and now I have 2 single crochets in that first stitch. So then I'm going, and I have a little bit of room left over, but I'm just going to leave that like it is. So I'm going to spin a little bit. I'm going to go into my next stitch. So my next stitch is right here. So this one right here, that was my first stitch. This is my second stitch. So I have 1, 2, this is stitch 3. Stitch 3, so I'm going to go through both of those loops. And then I'm going to still go in that same stitch because I need to do 2 single crochets in each of the stitches from last round. So I'm going to go right in there. So then I'll put my hook back in, yarn over. I have 2 loops on there, yarn over again, and pull through. So let's see how many I've got going on here. I have 1, that's my first stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm gonna rotate this around. My next stitch is this one right here. So you'll know, sometimes it is confusing to figure out, well, where the heck is my next stitch? It looks like the V and it won't have any loops going over it. This one has no loops on it. This one does have a loop going over it. So you know you already used that one. And you already put 2 stitches on there. That's the other thing. Sometimes it's hard to see those 2 stitches. So this was one set. And then that was the other set over there. So 1 and 2. Alright, so I'm going to go in here. Need 2 single crochets in here. And sometimes it really is hard to get that hook through. Okay, so I have my 2 loops on. Going to yarn over. Going through. And I need to go back in that same stitch. You can kind of see where the hole is right there. So I'll go back in. Yarn over. Pull through. And pull through the 2 on the hook. So then I have 2 there. These ones are pretty easy to see. So I have, that's one of my single crochets. Sometimes the single crochets kind of overlap because you're mushing them all in one stitch. And then there's the first one. So let's count up how many we've got here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we're going to need 6 more stitches. So that means I should have 6 left. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I might have to recalculate. Let's see. So 1 and 2. Okay. And go through next one. 1 and 2. You'll develop your own system of counting. And 1 and 2. So the whole time I'm doing this, I'm really pinching this quite a bit. Now I never closed that up, so I can do that. And now I should have 12, although my count didn't look too good, so I may have to frog it. So frogging is when you rip stuff out and makes a ribbiting noise, so that's why they call it frogging. I do quite a bit of frogging in all my yarn projects. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, I did 12. I must have miscounted on that other row, which is entirely possible. I'm not very good at keeping track of this stuff, which is why I always use paper to keep myself organized. So when you do this, I'm going to take the hook out for just a minute so we can look at this. There's the center, and then you can see these stitches, the V's going all the way around, and then you're going to get these little groups. So these were groups of 2. So we did round 1, which was making the magic ring. We did round 2, which was increasing to 12 stitches by putting 2 single crochets in each of those 6 stitches we made on round 1. so that is the video for round 1 and round 2. Now the directions are pretty awesome because they're going to just keep going until the last direction. And let's see how far this one goes. Well, on this page, this one goes up to round 23. So you can also write on a piece of paper and just cross off the round so you know that you did that round. I wouldn't necessarily cross it all the way off on here because you might want to use this again, or if you mess up you might need it again. I know for me, I usually do mess up and I need to read what those directions are just in case I got to do them again. Alright, so that was round 1 and round 2. Next video is going to be round 3, and then we'll take it from there. And like I said, it doesn't matter how long this takes you to figure it out. If it takes you 2 weeks to figure out from step 1 to step 2, that's okay, because you're learning something new, and you know, this takes a while. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you soon. Bye!